The Trumpet Daily from Jerusalem.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the Trumpet Daily. With tensions along the Syrian-Turkish border riding high, you can see why Turkey's role in the future of the Middle East is receiving such widespread news coverage. And Turkey certainly has a significant role to play in the events leading up to the return of Jesus Christ. But as we've been telling you for 2 decades now, as far as this particular region is concerned, Iran is the nation to watch. On October 2nd, the New York Times highlighted one man's powerful influence in Iranian politics, and with it, the true nature of Iran's aggressive foreign policy. And that one man is not President Ahmadinejad. The Times wrote that it's Qasem Soleimani, the shadowy commander of Iran's paramilitary Quds force, a major general in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and a man backed by Iran's supreme leader. Soleimani has been the mastermind behind 2 central Iranian foreign policy initiatives, exerting and expanding Tehran's influence in the internal politics of Iraq and providing military support for the rule of President Bashar al-Assad of Syria. Now, the Revolutionary Guard, by the way, was created specifically to support revolutions in neighboring nations like Afghanistan and Iraq and Lebanon. As formidable a foe as Soleimani may be, it's the driving force behind the man that exposes Iran's aim to take over the Middle East. American communications with General Soleimani and their own internal discussions, detailed in classified documents obtained for a new book on Iraq, the Times wrote, provide a vivid picture of a persistent and effective executor of Iran's international objectives. According to a report released by The Guardian last year, Soleimani sent a text message to General David Petraeus that read, "You should know that I, Qasem Soleimani, control the policy for Iran with respect to Iraq, Lebanon, Gaza, and Afghanistan." The New York Times feature detailed Soleimani's shrewd approach during these years as he capitalized on the post-Saddam Hussein chaos to gain Iranian influence over Iraq. General Soleimani took on the mission of expanding Iran's influence in the country, tying down the American military, and ultimately encouraging its exit. Paramount objectives for an Iranian government that was determined to be a major power in the region and that felt threatened by expanding American military presence on its western and eastern flanks. Even as the Quds force, under General Soleimani, armed and trained Shiite militias in Iraq, he hosted some of Iraq's most senior politicians by stoking violence and then mediating the conflict. Former American officials say he could make himself indispensable and keep the Iraqis off balance. According to America's former ambassador to Baghdad, Soleimani's strategic goal was an outright victory over Iraq, and if that was not possible, to create and influence a weak Iraq. Now, of course, we told you this would happen well over 10 years ago, how that when the United States went into Iraq, no matter how noble their intentions might have been, that really we were just clearing the way for Iraq's enemy, Iran, to just come right in there and take it over. And along the way, since we said that so many years ago, there have been a few others who've warned about this very event happening. During America's 2003 invasion, for example, then Saudi Arabian King Abdullah told Washington, "You have allowed the Persians to take over Iraq." A few years after that, in April 2008, General Petraeus told the Secretary of Defense, then Secretary Robert Gates, that he was sobered by the extent of direct Iranian involvement in Iraqi political intrigue. In another letter to Gates, Petraeus wrote, "I said that I'm considering telling the president that I believe Iran is in fact waging war on the United States in Iraq. For what it's worth, I do believe that Iran has gone beyond merely striving for influence in Iraq and could be creating proxies to actively fight us, thinking that they can keep us distracted while they try to build weapons of mass destruction. Now, that is a very sobering report from General Petraeus a few years ago. Earlier this year, the Iranian news agency ISNA quoted Soleimani as saying, "These regions," he was speaking of Lebanon and Iraq, he said, "These regions are one way or another subject to the control of the Islamic Republic of Iran and its ideas." That's what he said earlier this year. Then last month, Tehran admitted for the first time that it had Quds forces stationed in both Lebanon and Syria. Now, as I say, the Trumpet has been highlighting Iran's subtle takeover, and anymore it's not so subtle. But we've been highlighting this for 2 decades. Now that Iraq has been taken out of the picture, Iran is even closer to becoming the reigning king of the Middle East. That's what my father wrote back in 2003, right after the United States began its invasion of Iraq. He said, "It may seem shocking given the U.S. presence in the region right now, but prophecy indicates in pursuit of its goal, Iran will probably take over Iraq. At least it will have a heavy influence over the Iraqi people." Now, that's what we wrote almost 10 years ago. And look at today. Dori Gold, the former Israeli ambassador to the UN, he pointed out in a column recently that the machinations of the Iranians across the Middle East have become transparent as they've been growing beyond Iraq, Lebanon, and Gaza, from the Shiite revolt in Bahrain, the revolt on Yemeni Shiites, and their military involvement against the uprising of the Syrian Sunni population. Now, there's also the way Iran has been manipulating the Arab-Israeli conflict right here in Israel. As Gold pointed out, Iran needs the struggle against Israel to keep the Arab states distracted from influence they seek to build and exercise. So even the conflict here in Israel, it serves as a huge distraction to keep all the nations around here preoccupied, even as Iran continues with its weapons program. Now, you can expect Iran to continue its game of cloak and daggers, but this region is being radicalized right before our eyes, and soon now, it's going to trigger the violence, the conflict in this area. It's going to trigger world war. For much more on this subject, for much more about the role that Iran will play in Bible prophecy in these latter days, be sure to request our free booklet, The King of the South. That booklet's also available online at thetrumpet.com. We'll see you again next time.